Somebody else just mentioned that our ID to get into the meeting seems to be wrong, which is strange because it's automatically generated, as Geshe had difficulties yesterday. We're a little bit puzzled about that. So if anybody had those problems, we will check it again. But, well, you are here. But if you know somebody who's struggling, please tell them to click on the link. That seems to do the trick. So not to use the numbers, but the link. And we will check it again. Yeah. A little bit strange. Things happen.
My voice is clear because I'm not using earphone or anything like that, so it should be okay.
Very good, Geshe. Thank you.
Okay.
Shall we start, Geshe?
Yes, sure.
Thank you so much, Geshe. Thank you so much again for joining us today. And hello, everybody. Good afternoon in India, almost good evening, and good morning in the Americas. I know somebody wrote from Miami. I think it's 7 o'clock. I hope you made it today with a time difference. And yeah, in Europe, it's just lunchtime. So we're so happy that you're all here again on this Sunday. And we're so happy that Geshe is teaching us again. Please remember the text. We will put it soon in the chat when more people have joined us, but otherwise you find it in the resource folder. Yeah, please check your confirmation mail. There is a resource folder. Also, there are the recordings of Geshe-la's teachings. We mislabeled them a little bit. It's a YouTube link. That is the recordings. So it's automatically recorded and you can find it on YouTube. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, Geshe. Could we request Geshe again to lead us in the refuge prayer?
I take refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I achieve enlightenment. Through my practice of giving and so forth, may I achieve Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. Thank you.
Thank you, Geshe.
So welcome, everyone. Yesterday, we started the first section and read the first line, which stated this pure human body, so difficult to find, is wasted by engaging in unvirtuous evil deeds. Or you can translate it by saying it is a great loss to engage in unvirtuous evil deeds when this human body this pure human body is so difficult to obtain. So now when we say this pure human body is so difficult to find, pure human body primarily refers to a human life which has not committed many negative deeds. To be very correct, this line is not using any word called the human life which is rare and which has the leisure and endowment. The text is not using this in this line. It is used in the next subsequent line. So that means pure human body, pure human life means you have not engaged in any wrong livelihood or negative deeds. So probably this refers primarily to the time when you are young. You may not know much Dharma, but at least you are pure, or a little bit more innocent, Whatever you do may be less destructive, less negative. Okay? So, for example, out of the 10 endowments, out of which the first is called 5 personal endowments. So at this time, you may not have all the 5 personal endowments, but you may have, say, 3 or 4 of the personal endowments. So this line simply shows that this pure human body, which is not, so this is, to be precise, is not talking about all human body or life. It is primarily talking about that pure human body, which has not committed many negative deeds. Okay, so be very clear. This is not talking about all human body. It's talking about pure human body, a pure human life, meaning a life, as I said, when you are young, when you have not committed many intentionally, committed negative deeds. Okay. So to start with, when we are young, we've obtained this more innocent, pure human life. So it is really like a pure pot, which is fit to put pure, clean food. So at that time, you must engage in practice. So that is the purpose. The reason he is saying is that you have found this pure human body, which is very difficult to find. So if you waste this pure human body by engaging in unvirtuous evil deeds, then this is a great loss. This is a missed opportunity. So therefore, when you have, in other words, he's saying that when you are young and having not committed many negative deeds, then that is really the right time to engage in spiritual practice. Okay? In other words, when you are young, that is the right time to do your spiritual practice. His Holiness the Dalai Lama few times said that, for example, in the Tibetan society, sometimes we have this misconception, ordinary people, we have this misconception, thinking that when you are young, then you should enjoy the world, get married, do business, do farming, and all these countless activities do. You should do those. And when you grow old and incapable of doing all these mundane worldly activities, then you get ordained, become a monk and nun. He always said, this is really like nonsense. For the most important practice of your life, you see it as insignificant, not important. And then you say that you should do Dharma practice, so I will become a monk when I have finished doing all other things. At that time, you cannot do much practice. It is good in a way, but you can't do much practice when your eyesight are failing, your memory is failing, right? And you can't read the scriptures properly, right? So how can you do practice? So Buddhist practice in general, especially if you want to do some tantric practices where we have this visualization and doing yoga and things like that, then it should be done when your body is supple, flexible, when your mind is serviceable. That is the time to do meditation. That is the time to cultivate bodhicitta and so forth. So this is what it is basically saying. But unfortunately, what we do the opposite. We use this pure human body, engage in unvirtuous evil deed. That means you primarily focus on doing the worldly activities, which naturally involves committing the 10 unvirtuous activities, or even sometimes the 5 heinous crimes. And unnecessarily you have relatives and friends to look after, enemies to fight with. And in that process, you need to adopt deceitfulness, cunningness, cheating. And in this way, if you spend your life, then this is a great waste. So therefore, you must remind yourself that make sure that you don't have to repent later on. Now, in the second line, it says, this perfect human body, again, this pure human body, with the freedom and riches. That means the leisure and endowments. So now you can see the difference. This one says this pure human body with leisure and endowment, so hard to obtain, is wasted by dying an ordinary unspiritual person. Now that means even if you have in between, even if you have developed some faith to the Dharma and entered the door of Dharma practice, and you may also possess, so that's the meaning, this perfect human body with the freedom which possesses freedom and riches. So which possesses endowments and leisure does not mean you only have the leisure and endowment, but you also have spiritual teacher. You also have supporting benefactors. So when you possess good teacher, when you possess all the needed facilities, in addition to your having found the 8 leisures and 10 endowments, right? So that state is really like not an ordinary pot, but a very special pot, good pot, right? So in a good pot, nice pot, it should be filled with nutritious food, healthy food. And then if you enjoy that food content in that pot, you will be able to remove your hunger, thirst, and so forth. So likewise, having obtained this precious human life with leisure and endowments, and if you engage in the sublime Dharma practice, then it is possible to achieve enlightenment even in this life. However, while you have obtained such a precious human life with the leisure and endowment, instead of doing the Dharma practice, which you should be doing, if you just get distracted here and there and remain an absolutely ordinary person, and then you like leading a ordinary way of life in terms of your thinking, in terms of your memory, in terms of how you speak to other people, then even if you have entered the door of Dharma, or even if you have received ordination wearing a maroon cloth or red cloth, but your mind, there is no development at all. So in that state, if you die as an ordinary person, there's the meaning. Dying an ordinary unspiritual person, right? So whether you are a spiritual practitioner or not is not so much dependent upon changing your clothes. If you recall one of these teachings in the mind training, 7 points in mind training, there is a line which says, change your attitude and remain as you are. Now, some people, instead of changing their attitude, they want to make a show off. They wear very strange clothes, to show that you are a great monk, to show that you are a great tantric, and then they change their hairstyle and do different makeups, to impress people. And many ordinary people, they get easily impressed, right? We go by the external looks. So therefore, this point is important, where it is saying that change your attitude. Change your attitude. When somebody becomes a monk or a nun, also 3 changes take place. That is changing of the cloth, changing of the name, and most importantly, changing of the attitude. Even if you become a monk or a nun, but your attitude is similar like ordinary worldly, people leading household life, then you are actually not doing the practice that you are supposed to do. So this is really like having a very precious sandal wood at your disposal. Instead of using it to produce, good fragrance, if you burn it and turn it into a charcoal, this is very sad. So therefore, such things happen because you do not recognize what kind of precious life you have obtained today, right? Now, even among human beings, to be born in a place where there is Dharma, where there is availability of teacher and so forth, is very rare, very rare. As I said yesterday, today we may have more than 7 billion people, but how many Buddhists are there? They say it is over like 500 million Buddhists. That is just by name, okay, who say that I'm Buddhist. then among those 5 million who are Buddhist in the true sense of the term, is again, the number will be very, very less. There is a story of a lama scolding the monks, saying that even the monks sitting in the line in row, and some of the very senior monks sitting on the top of the line, this lama scolded by saying that some of the senior monks who are sitting on the top of the line, even among them there are those who are not Buddhist. So it is the attitude, you know. Now how do we become a Buddhist? The process of becoming a Buddhist is to take refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Now, taking refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha is not just repeating these lines 3 times and you become a Buddhist. No, it is really understanding the meaning. Why one should take refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha? Who are this Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha? Who are these 3 guys? What can they do? How can they protect us? You know, and whether they really have the capacity to protect us. And what is the problem? You know, you take refuge in somebody when you have a problem. What is your problem? You're not taking refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha because there's shortage of food and clothing and so forth. You are taking refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha because of the problems created by internal negative emotions, right? And because of this, you know, overwhelming presence of negative emotions, you go to stuck in the cycle of existence, samsara, right? So therefore, you should have that fear to the samsara and faith to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. So with that faith, with that fear, if you wholeheartedly take refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, then that is the process of taking refuge, right? And that process of taking refuge has to be firm. It should be there with you all the time, not just one day on a ceremony, not like that. It should be really firm. Now, we don't have that fear to the samsara, honestly speaking. We don't have any fear towards death, impermanence. For the sake of talking, we say samsara is bad, I'm scared of death and things like that. But deep down, I don't think you have any fear because you're not contemplating at all, right? And in fact, the reason that we fear dying means you want to live, you don't want to die. Live where? In the samsara. So you don't want to die, you want to live in the samsara. So you're basically saying, so far samsara is not so bad. So as Aryadeva in his 400 verses says, one who is not discouraged or saddened in this samsara will never develop respect to nirvana. And he gives the example by saying, if you are somebody who is, you know, fine, absolutely fine with your present home, present place, present family, why should you think about moving to some other place? It's only when you have a trouble in the family, trouble in that place, trouble in that house, then you think about moving to some other country, some other place, right? So we don't have that feeling of, you know, sadness or, you know, we are not disheartened by the samsara because we don't know the sufferings. Occasionally we experience suffering. Most of the time we experience suffering of change and conditioned suffering.
I think Geshe-la's frozen. Yes. Let's wait till Geshe-la comes back. Geshe-la, you're back.
Yes.
You're glad.
Okay.
talking about suffering.
Yeah. So therefore, what I was saying was, we think that happiness will come from outside by changing your wife, by changing your house, by changing your car, getting a new wife, getting a new husband, getting a new car, moving to a new place. Then you think there will be happiness. So we keep on changing what is outside of us, never changing our own attitude, never trying to reduce our negative emotions. So therefore, even though we want happiness, we are not getting it. And even though we do not want suffering, we get a lot of suffering and problems. The blame goes to oneself, right? So therefore, this pure human body with the freedoms and riches so hard to obtain is wasted by dying an ordinary unspiritual, as an ordinary unspiritual person. So whether you're a spiritual person or not a spiritual person is dependent not upon your external outlook, but it is dependent upon your mental attitude, right? So unless you mentally engage in Dharma practice, you may appear as a practitioner, but you may end up dying as an ordinary unspiritual person. So that is what he's saying. So this one is really talking about the need to meditate on the preciousness of human life, how difficult it is to obtain the leisures and at leisures in 10 endowments. Then the next third line says, this fleeting human life, already short in this dark age, is wasted when spent on pointless activities. So these lines are very powerful. This fleeting human life, already short in the dark age. Dark age basically means sometimes we use the word Kali Yuga, time of degeneration, when people have short life, when there is abundant presence of negative emotions and so forth. So we are born in we are living in a Kali Yuga, time of degeneration, right? And not only that, your life will be short. Now, life is short means if you are somebody who wants to do practice, you need to realize first of all that you should not postpone your practice. You have to do it immediately. You can't think that now I'm young, so I can have fun. Go. I should become a globetrotter, see everything, if it is possible. Many people are doing that, right? So I do this, do that, get distracted here and there. And then, as I already mentioned earlier, when you grow older, then I'll do Dharma practice. So that is very unhealthy, very unhealthy. This reminds me the instruction given by one Tibetan teacher who asked his student, asking that, are you doing Dharma practice? The student said, yes, I'm doing Dharma practice. Then the teacher scolded him by saying, when do you find time to do Dharma practice? Because in the night I found you sleeping, right? In the day you are getting distracted. So when do you find time to Dharma practice? So during the day also, of course, a good amount of time is spent on cooking, washing, going for a walk and things like that, on meeting people. You don't have time really, unless you make it a point to leave aside some time to remain in isolation and do the practice. Because human activities are like the waves of water, waves of an ocean. The waves of ocean never cease. After one wave finishes, another wave comes. One wave finishes, another wave comes. So our human activities are like that. So you need to see what kind of your life activities is more important than the others. I'm not saying that you don't have to work for your roti, kabra, and makan, food, clothing, and so forth. But those things should not be seen as the most important thing. The most important thing is transforming your mind. So therefore, I have always been telling people, your spiritual practice should be something like the national highway. Okay, so when you travel on the national highway, then during lunchtime or tea time, you can, stop the car a little bit and go a little bit outside the main road, but then come back on the national highway to reach your goal. But we do the opposite. We see the ordinary activities of looking after your relatives, fighting with the enemy, farming, business, this, that, 100,000 things, you do. Then only after that, if you have some time, then you think that now I should do some Dharma practice. That's why you find many people saying that, okay, now I need to go to Dharamsala for 2 weeks to do some practice, which is, of course, better than nothing. So that's what we think, you see. So you leave the most important thing as the last thing to do. And we had this problem with many people, especially people coming from the Western countries. I've heard them asking His Holiness many times, yes, it's important to do the Dharma practice, but in the West, His Holiness, we are so busy, We are so busy, we don't find time to do Dharma practice. Right? Which is not true. You find time to do many other things, not Dharma practice in the West or anywhere. So that means you are not very interested in doing Dharma practice. Right? So you need to reflect what is the best way of making this human life meaningful, shorter life, in general, shorter life during the time of degeneration. The maximum we may live is 100 years. If you're lucky, maybe 110. So ordinarily speaking, normally we die around 80, most of the people. Just before this teaching started, I was on the Facebook and I saw another Lama who is not very old, maybe about my age, who just passed, I think yesterday. So I see this all the time on the Facebook. Somebody passed away, somebody died, So what is the guarantee that you will be left as the last person to die? That's what we think, And I want to share this story of somebody encountering the Lord of Death, the messenger of death. So one day that guy was standing in the marketplace, and then somebody knocked him from behind. And he looked back and he saw that the messenger of the Lord of Death was standing there. He was very frightened. Then the messenger of the death said, no, don't get frightened. This time I'm not here to pick you up. I'm looking for someone else. So you still have 1 week. He said, you still have 1 week. So scared as he is, he just ran away, leaving that marketplace or whatever. Ran away high into the mountain, hid himself in the cave for 1 week. He did not go out, hid himself in the cave, thinking that nobody can, come here. Then on the last day, he was more or less sure that until now nobody came, so probably I'm safe now. So he just came out from the cave and craned his neck, looking around, nobody there. Then somebody again tapped him from the back. On looking back, he found the messenger of death standing there. Then he expressed his surprise. Right? And then when he expressed his surprise, the messenger of death expressed even more surprised. He said, I was surprised that last time I saw you in the marketplace because the Lord of Death has asked me to pick you from here. So my point is, as he said in many of the sutras, that when death comes, you cannot hide yourself in the depth of the ocean or amidst the mountains or anywhere. You may be very rich, but you cannot lure the messenger of the death with your money You may be president and prime minister. You cannot use your power and send army and military force. Okay, this is true with everybody, including the Chinese president Xi Jinping, who right now thinks he's beyond reach. Right? So there are many people, not just him, there are many people, including us, who think like that. And Master Tsongkhapa, in his great stages of the path, he says that everybody has this feeling that one day I will die. That much is there with everybody. Even the sinners, they also think that one day I will die. But the problem is everybody thinks today I will not die. So today I will not die means when tomorrow comes again you say, today I'm not going to die. Today I'm not going to die. You ask that question to an elderly person, maybe over 90 years. If you ask that person, are you going to die? He will say, of course. If you ask him, are you going to die today? He will say, maybe not today. There's the problem. There's the problem. So therefore, the need to remember impermanence in general and need to remember death is not to unnecessarily frighten yourself, scare yourself, but to help you, to inspire you, engage in serious Dharma practice. One-pointed Dharma practice, because death is definite, time of death is indefinite, and at the time of the death, the only thing that will help you, not only at the time of the death, but even after the death, in the next lives, the only thing that is going to help you is your spiritual practice. Not your relatives, not your friends, not your money, not your fame, not your name, nothing. How does it help? Spiritual practice means make your mind habituated with good ways of life, good ways of thinking. When that mind is accustomed to those positive virtues, habits, that habit goes from life to life. And thereby you live a compassionate life, a loving life, a life of altruism and things like that. That is how you protect yourself, how you help yourself, right? So that's why it is important to seize this opportunity with the realization that I'm living in this time of degeneration. Life in general is very short, and especially, during this time of degeneration and during this so-called modern life, there are so many interruptions, external interruptions, internal interruptions, and especially when you travel to so many places, there may be a car crash or train crash or aeroplane crash. Those things are not there in ancient times. So many of the so-called facilities become factors for your death. Tsongkhapa's great stages of the path speaks about, I think, nine factors for death. Right? So now I think these days we have many, many more factors. By eating the wrong food, so many different types of foods are there. So sometimes just by small incidents, you might die, right? So therefore, instead of making this human life meaningful, if you spend your life in a meaningless way, that is fighting your enemy, looking after your relatives, making profit, and going here, going there, getting distracted, then this is very sad. This is happening even with the ordained monks and nuns, right? If you really look how they are spending their life, they spend a lot of time running after money, making name, fame, doing small business just for oneself. And you are ready to almost do everything when there is some money forthcoming, and you are reluctant to do anything good when there is no personal gain, personal benefit. So this clearly shows that there is no true sign of, an ordained person or a Dharma practitioner. So therefore, in short, he is saying that, for example, if you are traveling, for example, then during the course of your traveling, if you are spending one night in a hotel, then of course you want to make any preparation in that hotel to live 100 years. Because I'm here spending only one night, right? So therefore, when our life is short, And there's no guarantee how long we are going to live. It is really pointless to make too much preparations to live, right? If you look at some of the ancient forts built by the kings, they really built a very strong fort, and then, with barricades and fences, and then armies all around to protect them. Nobody can protect them. Nobody can protect them, right? So all these forts are now today like the ruins everywhere. Especially if you, for example, in India, if you visit that Jaipur and Jodhpur and those places, you'll find many ruins, old ruins. Just here in Dharamsala, in Kangra, you have this ruins of a big fort. So that is the thing. So therefore, meditation on impermanence is really the key. Okay, there is the foundation of your Dharma practice. So therefore, make preparation for going, not for living. So that is what he's saying. And make preparation going means you need to find out what is it that is necessary when you die. Can you take with you your Apple iPhone? Can you take with you your nice car? Or can you even take with you your plastic card? Forget about taking with you your relatives and friends. You can't take even the so-called, the modern kind of convenient facilities like the plastic card. You can't take. They are of no meaning, nothing, right? So what are you going to take? Nothing. Not only when you die, even in this life, when you travel, you can't take everything with you. You can't take, especially if you fly, you're permitted to carry 15 kilos or 20 kilos. And if you carry more than that, then they say, Madam, sorry, excess baggage. They'll charge you. And Buddha has been teaching this for long. He said, if you collect so many things, it is excess baggage. Buddha has been saying this in all his teachings. Have contentment, reduce your desire, right? Buddha himself, in his case, he was a prince, right? And he left all his family and kingdom behind to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. So this is how you should meditate on impermanence. Your mind, whose unconstructed nature is dharmakaya, is wasted by sinking into the muddy swim of samsaric delusions. So this is talking about the importance of recognizing the fundamental nature of your mind. The text is saying the fundamental nature of your mind is dharmakaya. In other words, the fundamental nature of your mind is luminous and cognitive and is not contaminated. Both in the case of the samsara and also in the case of nirvana, both do not have any independent inherent existence. So the way we perceive samsara or even nirvana as having inherent existence is mistaken. And it is because of this misconception of the reality, we get entrapped into the samsara and experience all kinds of sufferings. So therefore, it is important to understand the ultimate nature of the mind, which is, as I said, luminous, cognitive, and do not have inherent existence. So you should understand these three nature of your mind, which is clear, cognitive, and empty. So it is there with you. If you make some effort, it's there with you. You're not seeking it from somewhere else. It is there with you. That nature is there with you. You only need to understand their nature. Now, to understand their nature, you need to focus. You need to analyze. You need to use your concentration and wisdom. And that is the, I think, beauty of Buddha's teaching. Because when Buddha taught about emptiness, he was really talking about the ultimate nature of everything. He was not fabricating something which is not there in the nature. He was saying whether you look outside or inside, wherever you look, to whatever object you refer to, you will find that object simply designated by the mind and do not have any independent inherent existence. Now, why he has to tell that? He has to tell that to people, because even though that is the fundamental nature of all phenomena, but because of misconception of reality, because of our ignorance, we are unable to see things as pure, empty of independent existence. Instead, because of the misconception of reality, we tend to see everything as having inherent independent existence. And because of this wrong conception, we think there is a friend that must be looked after. There is an enemy that must be fought, right? So you see everything in a kind of very tangible, objective form. Whereas reality is, in the true sense of the term, there is, nothing worth developing attachment and worth developing hatred. Just like the space, right? So it is because of this mistaken state of the mind, we get entrapped in the samsara. And in the samsara, of course, because of this negative emotion, you encounter all kinds of sufferings. So it's really like somebody who is got stuck in the mud. If you are heavily stuck in the mud, you may not be able to pull your legs out of that thick mud by yourself. You need to seek the help of somebody. Because if you try, just now before the teaching, I was watching an animal episode where a lion was got stuck somewhere, So the lion, basically a very powerful animal, but he is unable to, get out of that fence. So somebody came and helped that person, helped that lion. So similarly, by yourself, you may not be able to come out of it. Even if you're able to do, you have to undergo a lot of hardship. So therefore, it is important that the capacity to get enlightened is there within yourself. And it's only because you let your mind go into the wrong direction. So it's almost like self-torture, It's really like a food. It's already well, nicely cooked food is, there on the table and you're not eating it, right? So everybody, ordinary people, everybody spend most of the time looking outside, chasing object. And it is because of this constant chasing and running after object, you don't get rest. That's why, and especially in today's world, people always say that I'm very tired. Of course you will get tired. You will find a rest only when you go back to your home, to your mind. There is a text written in the Dzogchen tradition which is called making the mind itself take rest. It's not so much of the body, it's the mind, right? So today, everybody is tired, right? So therefore, it is important to recognize your ultimate nature of your mind. And it is very sad if you do not make an attempt to recognize the ultimate nature of your mind and let yourself get stuck in the samsara. Of course, it is not easy. I'm not saying it is easy, but it is also not that difficult. not difficult. For example, in one of the sutra, it gives a beautiful example by saying that let us say there is a house which remained dark, say for the last 30, 40 years, because nobody came inside that room. So the darkness was there in that room for 30 years. 30 years. But today, if you go open the door and switch on the light, the darkness of 30, 40 years will be instantaneously gone with that switch on of the light. So something like that. It may not be that quick, but you know, if you make an effort, and then when you develop that awareness, that knowledge of the reality, things will start shifting, things will start changing, right? So there is no need to get too discouraged thinking that I'm not going to get anything. Okay? So it's really like somebody who has this very costly, precious jewel or gem with oneself, but because that person does not know the cost, price, and benefit of their gem, he just ignores it. So the gem is with you, the jewel is with you, so you must recognize it. In other words, you should now meditate on the faults of samsara, and to get out of this samsara, you must understand your own nature of the mind, the dharmakaya nature of your mind. Okay? The Sublime Master who leads you onto the path is vested when you dissociate from him before attaining enlightenment. Now, as I said, even in the ordinary world, if you are to learn carpentry or any other craft or an art, you need a teacher. Now here we are talking about things that is visible, that we can see. Even there, we need a teacher, a guide. Now, if that is the case, there's no need to talk about, you know, the need of a lama or a teacher to guide you to travel safely into the next life. A journey which you are going to do alone, right? You don't have a map there. You don't have a physical map to go to the next life, right? The only thing, the only clothing, the only food, etc. is cultivation of positive qualities within your mind. So therefore, it is important to have the lama, that guides you, that leads you onto the path. Sublime Lama. Now, Lama, when we say Sublime Lama, it's not talking about anybody who has the title of Lama, because these days there are many self-initiated Lamas also. Right? You know, now I am also giving some talks and teachings here and there. So if I insert one word, Lama Lhakdor, and then they will say, and in fact, there are people who call me Lama Lhakdor because of lack of knowledge, you know. So I will become Lama Lhakdor, right? But this word Lama actually is very much misused. First of all, it is misused by those foreign travelers who came to Tibet without much Buddhist background. And there in Tibet, they saw the high respect given to the lamas. Then they started using this wrong word, which is called Lamaism, which is wrong usage, because the Buddhism that is practiced in Tibet is pure Buddhism, not something fabricated and invented by the lamas, right? Now, with respect to the meaning of the word Lama, Lama means superior. So the desired quality of Lama, if that Lama is really qualified Lama, you know, it's not easy to get the qualified Lama. As I said, of course, you can call yourself Lama and all the stupid things, but to be a real Lama is somebody who cares about other people more than oneself. Now you can see how many are there among the Lamas who care others more than oneself. Real Lama, Sublime Lama should be somebody who cares more about the future lives than this life. Now see how many are there. It's not easy. Not easy. Then ordinarily speaking, all the so-called reincarnates are called lamas. Now, to be honest, among the reincarnates, there are false reincarnates, because we live in an ordinary human society, all kind of exploitation, manipulation, they're all there. And sometimes, the richer family, they manage to get their son and daughter become a lama or reincarnate. So unfortunate things are there. So anyway, so in the ordinary Tibetan society, all the so-called reincarnates are called lamas. But in the true sense of the term, they are not lama because they don't have any high quality. Right? So therefore, the Dalai Lama is always saying that the ordinary people should respect more to those people who had undergone many years of proper study, rather than this title of reincarnate as a social status. Right? You need to find a good practitioner. So among those people who had underwent many years of rigorous study, and then not only because of their knowledge, if they have behaved properly and they have been very compassionate, then naturally ordinary people come to seek their guidance, seek their advice, and people start calling them Lama. So which is, I think, fine. That's true Lama who is really qualified. Okay. So Lama, Sublime Lama. So when it comes to finding a Lama, it should not be like a dog jumping upon a piece of meat. If you throw a piece of meat in front of the dog has no time to think. He'll immediately grab it. So these days, many people, when it comes to finding their teacher, they do it almost like marriage. I like this man, I want to marry. I like this woman, I want to marry. Sometimes people do almost like that quickly. Oh, I like that Lama so much. He's my Lama. No, you shouldn't say things like that. Take time. Because that Lama, a spiritual teacher, has to be somebody who can really guide you, who practices what he preaches, or at least he should be compassionate. Really important. So therefore in Buddhism we talk about the 4 reliances. Don't rely on the beauty of the word, but rely on the meaning. Don't rely on the name and fame of the person, but rely on his or her teaching. Normally we go after name and fame. So the 4 reliances say that don't go for the name and fame of the teacher, but go for the teaching. If the teaching is good, then you should go after that. Now, when it comes to the teaching, don't go after the beauty of the word, but go after the meaning. When it comes to understanding the meaning, don't go after the interpretative level, but go after the definitive meaning. When it comes to understanding the definitive meaning, rely more on the wisdom mind than on the grosser level of the mind. So these are the processes of, following the teaching and finding the teacher. It's okay to listen to somebody. It's okay. You can listen to anybody. You can attend anybody talk. So like that, that's the so-called Lama, Geshe, whoever they are, if you want to listen to a talk, listen to their talk. If you get some good advice, of course, you should appreciate it. Even if somebody gives me a cup of tea, I have to appreciate that. And I have to say thank you. So like that, be grateful. But you don't have to, because of that, you don't have to accept that person as your teacher, especially root teacher. No, don't tie your head with anybody like that. Okay. And also no need to say all the bad things to somebody. Okay. So don't be fickle. Fickle is the right word. I think don't be fickle. Don't be fickle. Okay. So to do systematic planning and thinking, when you have really found the sublime teacher, I have come across a number of people who who have asked me to find a teacher. I can't give somebody in this should be your teacher, one is to. So I always tell them, okay, for the time being, if you don't have a teacher, then you should regard His Holiness the Dalai Lama as your teacher. Safe, very safe. And during this modern period, you can listen to all his talks and teachings online, right? So don't think that you have to remain with that Lama and travel wherever he is traveling. That is not necessary. And in Tibet, we have a saying that the blessing of a Lama is greater from a distance. Meaning that sometimes when you are a little bit away from the teacher, then you will respect more, you will long for that teacher more. But when you live too close by, because you are an ordinary person, you might, start judging that person, and start seeing your likes and dislikes. So therefore, the blessings of a Lama is greater from a distance. That is the point, you see. Okay, so my main point is don't hurriedly take somebody as your teacher. I found a number of people who hurriedly, say that this is my teacher or root teacher and full of praises. Then after a while, they start saying all the bad things, So that is not good. Not only in terms of relation between the teacher and the taught, but also in terms of human relationship. It has to be, balanced. It has to be steady. Okay. So therefore, now through systematic finding and analysis, when you found such a reliable Sublime Lama, then you need to follow that Lama's teaching until you die. Okay? Or if possible, until you become Buddha. And in Tibetan tradition, that even when you become Buddha, then still there is if you see some of the tantric deities, like for example, Avalokiteshvara, on the top of Avalokiteshvara's head, there is Amitabha, right? So that means his teacher, even after one is enlightened. Okay. Somebody is calling, sorry. Okay. So therefore, the Sublime Master who leads you onto the path is vested when you dissociate, when you cut your relationship with that person before you become enlightened or before you achieve a good level of progress. You should not stop that relationship with that person. Continue to seek his blessing, continue to seek his guidance and so forth. Because this is like somebody who's traveling to a very dangerous place. When you are traveling to a place which is not familiar to you, and especially if you are going to a place which is infested with wild animals and enemies and so forth, then it's important that you have somebody traveling with you who can guard you, who can protect you until you reach your destination safely. So your teacher is like that. He's the guardian, real protector. So therefore, it is a shame, it is sad if you dissociate yourself from such a teacher. So therefore, before we talk about the law of karma, the text is saying that you should first of all have a good teacher, good guide. Okay. Your vows and samayas, the ship to reach liberation, are vested when broken through frivolous, disturbing emotions. Now, the purpose of our practice is to get liberated from samsara and to achieve nirvana, liberation. Liberation is compared here as a ship. Okay. In order to reach that state of liberation, you need to, for example, in order to cross the ocean, you need a ship. So similarly, in order to reach that state of liberation, you need to observe vows, and according to the Sutra practice, you need to observe vows. Vows means the three types of vows: the Patimoksha vow, and Bodhisattva vow, and the Tantric vows. And on top of that, if you engage in tantric practice, then you also need to observe the pledges, right? So that is your ship to cross the ocean of samsara and reach the state of liberation. So therefore it is saying that do not hurriedly rush to get these vows and make tantric pledges and then break all of them, right? You must receive these vows properly with strong motivation and make the tantric pledges. And once you have received the vows and made the pledges, then observe them at the cost of your life. Okay? Instead, if you let your mind run wild, become heedless, and let yourself controlled by all types of negative emotions, then naturally the vows will be lost. Your pledges will be broken. The difference between vow and pledge. Vow, as I said, is the three types of vows. Okay? The common vows. It refers to the common vow. Here refers to the common vows of Patimoksha, of Bodhisattva, and Tantric vows. Now, when we talk about a pledge, then it refers only to the special pledges that is observed in relation to Tantric practices, like the 14 root infractions and so forth. Okay? So, protecting those vows and pledges is really like a ship that will help you cross the ocean of samsara. But if you internally let the negative emotions erupt, remain a careless life, do not maintain mindfulness, then because of the greater presence of external disturbing factors and conditions, your vows and pledges will degenerate. And if you do that, then this is a great loss. It is like a person who has found a ship to cross the ocean, and while crossing the ocean, if you just, destroy that ship in pieces, then of course you will sink into that ocean and you will not be able to cross it. So it is like that. Okay? Like always. One more. The experience and realization discovered within yourself through the existence of a master are wasted when allowed to dissipate in the jungle of materialistic activities. Now, even when you have found a good sublime teacher, through whose kindness, through whose association, you might have developed some realization, right? Which means that to start with, you found a sublime teacher from whom you received the vows and pledges. And it is in this way that through the kindness of that sublime teacher, you engage in hearing and thinking and meditation systematically. And then through hearing and especially through meditation, you might have found some of the blessings of the Lama. You may also have some recognition of the basic nature of your mind. So in short, you might have found some realization of hearing, thinking, and meditation. So that must be further promoted. But if you're unable to, even if you develop that, got that blessing and develop that realization, if you're unable to preserve it and promote it further, right, then that realization will be lost among the hustle and bustle of ordinary life. So therefore, some of the teachers, they used to instruct their students by saying that meditation should be there, something like meditation should be there on your hip, not on your leg. So meditation should be there on your hip means that you should be able to sit. You should be able to meditate. Meditation should not be there on your leg means when you're going everywhere. Okay. So you need to sit, do the meditation. Okay. So even if you have got such realization, but instead of sustaining that realization and further promoting it, if you again engage into this ordinary mundane activities of fighting with the enemies, looking after the relatives, cultivating your farm, making profit, doing business, 100,000 things are there in this world to do. In other words, if you lead a life of commotion, life full of hustle and bustle. This Tibetan word is very beautiful, sangising, sangsing. For material things, we call it sangising, which means sangsing, which means that will make you sangsing, socials, that will make you run wild. The name that is used for the material things is called that which will make you run wild. Run hither and thither, right? So if you keep on running hither and thither, how are you going to meditate? So this is really like having found a precious gem, but not taking care of it and simply throwing it into the dust, into the garbage. So which is very sad and big loss. And we do have such people. There are people who say that at such and such a particular good time, at such and such particular good time, I received teaching from such and such a good teacher, and I studied scripture for such and such duration. Now, because of the hustle and bustle of the life, I have forgotten all my studies. We find many people like that. And I can be counted also probably in that category, right? Because right now I'm running an institute, so there are so many things to do, beneficial, not beneficial, I don't know, but you're caught, caught in that circle, right? So you need to be very alert and very awake. Whenever you find time, go for your practice, study Dharma, meditate and think. In your regular activities also, you should see how you can bring smile on the face of other people, how you can benefit them, how you can make their life, happier. Then you will always find an opportunity to do it. Okay. So it's not easy because we are surrounded by almost like surrounded by wolves. Okay. We are surrounded by ordinary people, If I venture out a little bit outside, then immediately you will see the interesting thing, people are talking about marriage, people are talking about business, people are talking about going there, going here, it's a totally different world. Still, Dharamsala is not that bad area. But if you go to big cities, they're completely different. Their way of thinking, what they do, they only think about money in big cities. I've seen people, day and night, people hardly sleep, they're running and running and running and running. Eat and sleep, eat and sleep, eat and sleep, run, and then die. Right? The stomach, long time before, I was just thinking about writing a book. I mean, that was not like genuine commitment, but just it came in my mind, thinking about writing a book, and the cover of that book will be stomach. There will be cover of that book will be a stomach, and the rest of the world running after the stomach, So to feed this stomach, we do all kind of things, right? So unless you maintain some kind of discipline, and I constantly tell people, just as with how you spend your money, you budget it, right? For every institution, there you have to pass the budget, and then individual also. Some people are very good in keeping the budget. I can spend this much this month, not more than that, like that. So similarly, you should make a budget of how you think. and see how much time you are spending in your spiritual practice. It's really important, because unless you have constant reminder, you will forget it. Okay? So such things happen because you have not meditated upon the law of causality. So therefore it is important to meditate on law of causality, because law of causality is something which is infallible and you cannot cheat it. You may be able to cheat the police. You may be even able to cheat the spy camera, but you will not be able to cheat the law of causality. It's so interesting. And this does, for the sake of easier understanding, sometimes I use, instead of using the word law of causality, I use the word law of nature. So if you go against the law of nature, you will be the one who will suffer. You cannot cheat the law of nature. So therefore you need to reflect on this point repeatedly. And observe your vows and pledges, just like guarding your eye. And if you do that, then your wisdom of hearing, wisdom of thinking, and wisdom of meditation will prosper and flourish automatically. Okay, so stop here today. Okay. Okay, yellow hand, please.
If anybody has a question, please raise your little yellow hand. You can find in your Zoom.
Yellow hand from Jackie. Yes, Jackie.
Jackie, please unmute.
Hello, thank you. And nice to see you again. Thank you. I was wondering, you mentioned about when you're talking about how everything's designated by the mind, and you use the example of a friend that needs to be looked after. Could you, in a conventional sense, though, we still have to, even if we understood the nature of reality in conventional world, it's, you know, in terms of karma, we want to still be doing good deeds, so we could still help that person, but just with not the idea of it being a friend kind of thing. Or
So therefore Nagarjuna said, if you misperceive emptiness, by misperceiving emptiness, those with small intelligence will be lost. Meaning that emptiness does not mean nothingness. Emptiness means empty of independent existence. Therefore, even though there is no independent existence, but existence is there. What we are refuting is independent existence, not existence. Things exist at the conventional level. Things function. That's why we are talking about law of karma, infallibility of law of karma, cause-effect relationship. So that's why we are talking about benefiting everybody. And the other day, I also used this English phrase, think globally, act locally, right? So even though we need to help everybody, but our capacity is limited, our reach is limited, so start helping your friends and relatives. Okay, but that does not mean to say that you use all your energy in helping your relatives and friends in a small way. There are greater ways of helping them. Smaller ways of helping, like giving food, clothing, or saying nice word, this is also useful to start with. But in the long run, help them change their attitude. Become more compassionate, become more loving. That is what the Buddha did. He left his wife and kid and his father and everybody, so that he is able to help them in a bigger way. And of course, he was able to help not only a few people, but millions of people. Even to this day, how many millions of people are getting benefit from his decision? But of course, we cannot right away do such things like the Buddha, but we should at least move towards that direction. Don't pretend that you're, spiritual practitioner. You have nothing to do with the family members, not like that. Okay. So therefore, there is a teaching which says, even if your realization is equal to the divine beings, your conduct should be like normal beings, right? But at the same time, there should be some difference between having a practice, not having a practice. So it is important to occasionally try to show them the right path. Okay. That's why in ordinary society also we talk about getting education. Education means not just giving money to other people, but to educate them so that they are able to look after themselves later on. That's the idea, right? So we have this example of giving a fish and teaching how to catch fish. You know that one. So it's better to teach people how to catch fish rather than giving fish. Okay.
And if there's time, can I ask another question?
Yeah.
So I had a bad dream that I didn't actually, I could have committed a non-virtuous action. Like I had a dream of after effects of having killed someone, but I didn't see myself killing them. But still, I woke up feeling like I should, kind of purify. But like, are you responsible for what you dream?
Yeah, in a way, yes.
Oh, really? Oh,
In a way means whatever we are experiencing, including dream, most of them are related to what we have done yesterday, day before yesterday, 1 month before, 10 years before, 10 lives before, right? So that's what I was saying. Nothing gets wasted, you see. And having all these imprints in our mind, when it comes into contact with an external factor, then the dreams start making stories. So it doesn't have to be completely true, but there is a basis for telling the story. For example, I tell you something based on my own experience. I used to have a lot of dreams, mainly dreams of flying and things like that. These days, I don't get much dreaming. So one night, I'm telling you just one, okay? One night, I dreamt, being chased by hundreds and thousands of Chinese army with guns. They're just coming all the way down from the top of the mountain. I was somewhere closer to the foot of the mountain. So I was alone and I was running scared. I also had to have a very rudimentary gun, the Tibetan style of gun or something like that. So I was just running, trying to cross that mountain. And that mountain was full of slits. I could hear the slits, sliding down. And I was running and running. And then somebody shoot the gun from there and it hit here near my ribs, and it was bleeding. So one of my hand, carrying my gun, and another hand is just, touching that part where it was hit. And it was very scary. Yeah. Then suddenly I woke up. Now you know why I had this dream. One, because I left Tibet with fear. We were chased by the Chinese army and we heard this story over and over. So that imprint must be there. So there was the long-term, many years imprint. Then the immediate factor was when I woke up to such an interesting thing. When I woke up, this part where I felt I was hit, that was being, pierced by a small, I don't know what was it, a cloth or a stone or something, which was hurting, So that was the bullet, And then like, for example, if you in the middle of night, if your blankets just slip from your body, and if you feel cold, then you might get the dream of being born in a cold hell. Okay, so these things are dependent on past lives, habits, and also present, factors. So it's not always reliable.
So should I purify myself after?
Purify, don't worry too much about that thing. You know,
Okay.
as ordinary beings, we definitely we have done many good things also, not just bad things. We have done many bad things also. So therefore, of course, you should think always purifying all the negative deeds, which you know right now, which you don't know. You know, so you should say whatever negative things I've done, I'm going to purify it. That attitude should always be there.
Because you can't help but wake up not feeling happy after a dream like that. Because
Yeah, those things
Well, you-
happen. Those things happen.
Yeah.
You can't be, number one, you can't be happy all the time. Happiness and suffering come together. And suffering not necessarily negative. It gives you an opportunity. It gives you an opportunity to learn new things, you see. So it's important. So therefore, Shanti Deva said, suffering is introduction to happiness. Right? So it's
Yeah.
important to face those
Make it-
sufferings and challenges. Very important, actually.
put it in the past kind of thing.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other yellow person? Yellow hand? Yes, there's Amit. Amit Ji. Please
Amit Ji,
unmute. Yeah.
unmute.
Hello. Sir, yesterday you told about ignorance, attachment, and hatred is not good.
Yeah.
So this attachment and hatred is easily understandable, but could you please explain about the ignorance in detail?
All our wrong actions arise from confusion. So ignorance means basically confusion about the reality, right? For example, to get angry is actually not good for your physical and mental health. But ordinarily, because of ignorance, we don't realize that. We think that I should be bold, I should be strong, I should challenge everybody's wrongdoing. For that, I should get angry. So you tend to see anger as something important in your life, right? And then in that process, sometimes not only you fight with other people, you kill other people, and you land up in prison and jail and things like that. Similarly, if you see two countries fighting each other, what do they get in the end? In the beginning, when people suggest them, don't fight, solve the problem through dialogue, negotiation, nobody's listening. Nobody is ready to listen. They want to show their ignorance, say that, yes, I will be stronger. I will defeat my enemy. Okay, then they start the conflict and start killing each other. And after thousands of people have been killed on each side, then out of desperation, they say ceasefire. You see? Why don't they stop that right in the beginning? Why they have to stop only after so many people have suffered and killed? Because of ignorance, right? The ignorance is rampant. Even the food you take so many types of food which is not good for your health, but out of ignorance, you eat all kind of things, then you get your stomach upset and you get headache, and because of consuming too much oil, you get headache, too much sugar, you get, hypertension or whatever, It's all because of ignorance. We are looking only for immediate sensual pleasures, right? A man having an affair with a woman for temporary pleasure. Then after that, they get a lot of headache, fighting in the court, getting divorced, like that, you see. So we are like small kids, We go for immediate pleasures. I'm not saying you should not enjoy, but even when you enjoy, you should be careful whether it's good for your health or not, physical health and mental health, right? Okay. Any other questions? Yes.
Geshe-la, there is one question in the chat.
Yeah.
referring to what Geshe mentioned, not getting lost in the jungle of materialistic activities.
Yes.
So somebody is asking for lay people who need to do work and provide for a family. Does working and earning money constitute materialistic activity? We have to do our duty towards our family as well. So the person
purely from spiritual practice, getting married itself was the problem. Okay, so you already made that problem, that you have to now, do non-stop work to look after your family members and things like that. So that itself is purely from strict religious practice. That itself was a mistake. Anyway, now you have to look after your family and so forth. So in Buddhism, we are not saying that you should not work, you should not earn. Even the so-called great Buddhist meditators, they will all starve if they don't get food, right? So the meditators in the mountain are successful because of the kindness of benefactors who work very hard and provide them food and other necessities. Similarly, in your family also, of course, you can't let yourself starve in the name of practice. But what is being encouraged is that only thinking about material accumulation is the most important thing in your life. That is materialistic. It's not saying that you can't have money or you can't have clothing or you can't look after your family. No, of course you have to look after them, right? But if you think that life is primarily meant for this fulfillment of the sensual objects, and let your mind starve, then you're going to get a lot of problems, not only in the future lives, but even in this life, you're going to get a lot of problems. So that is what is being suggested, okay? Okay. Next.
Victor, could you please unmute?
Thank you so much, Kumpena. Geshe, I have a question about being able to do practices. Many people, be it for karma or for whatever reason, they suffer trauma in their life that affects their ability to access things because they're dealing with the trauma. How do we look at those situations when we're looking at following the advice that you're suggesting? Thank you for taking my question.
Yeah. So that's why we are saying, like, for example, now we are saying that you should engage in, good Dharma practice so that in the future life, you don't experience depression, you don't experience trauma, all those things, So if it is something that you've committed before already, you are bound to experience those problems now because you've already cultivated the causes and conditions, right? So I know that there are many people who are, feeling lonely and depressed and experiencing trauma. So for these people, we cannot right away say, oh, you should meditate. In some cases, instead of meditation helping them, it might worsen their situation, So you need to be skillful. So for such people, for some people, the trauma can be removed through medication, proper medication. For some people, it may be removed through the care and compassion of loving family members and relatives. That's more important, right? And then gradually, physically, mentally, you become more fit, then start doing some practice. Okay? So it's really like teaching ABCD to kids, Your ultimate objective is to make them do their PhD, but you can't teach the PhD subjects to everybody right in the beginning. There's no other way but just to teach how to say A, B, C, D. So depending upon situation of different people, different tactics must be adopted. There's not one, solution applicable to everybody. Okay. So that's why, in a general sense, that's why it makes it very clear that the world as a whole, the family as a whole, the society as a whole should be compassionate and loving. If that love and compassion is widely available in the society, in the family, in the whole nation, then many of these problems, including COVID-19, can be removed. That's 100% sure. Now, for example, this dreadful COVID-19 pandemic, how did it came about? Because of human beings' misadventure. Okay, because of mistreating the animals. It is said that almost like 60% of different kind of illnesses that human beings are experiencing today are because of our ill treatment of animals. Okay. So you can change all these negative deeds by learning to live in harmony with the nature. Learning to live with harmony and with nature means compassionate relationship, loving relationship with environment, with everybody. And then all these problems of fear, anxiety, depression, all these things are happening because there are many who suffer, but nobody is looking after them. There's the problem. So it's not something that we can solve easily. The education process itself is wrong. Today's modern education process itself is wrong. Today's modern education primarily means reading, writing, mathematics. If you're good in reading, good in writing, good in mathematics, you get a job. Then you think the purpose of education is over. But now, slowly, more and more people are talking about education as not only reading, writing, mathematics, but human flourishment. The result of education must make human beings happy, flourish. That's the purpose of education. So we need to bring about a lot of changes. Because right now, all activities and education, they're all focus on how to make money. How to become great consumers by consume the whole environment, and then die of starvation, die of pollution. We are moving to that direction, unfortunately. Okay. Yes, any other questions?
Oh, the hand disappeared.
Yeah, I saw one yellow hand disappeared.
Yes.
Dipali.
Dipali, do you still have your question?
Yes. Thank you for such a wonderful session. My question is, are things predestined? And if yes, then how much free will does a man have?
No, this is a good question, but things are not predestined, no. Therefore, even when we use the word karma, the word karma has no fatalistic notion. Karma does not mean that your fate is determined. There's nothing much you can do. Karma means action. So you can take an action and change the course of your life, the change course of your choice, right? So therefore, it is in your hand. Okay, so this is really like, many people think karma, it's my karma, nothing, I can do nothing. Many people say, oh, it's emptiness, there's nothing we can do. This is all wrong understanding. It's because of emptiness we can do. Therefore, Nagarjuna said, to whom emptiness is possible, everything is possible. To whom emptiness is not possible, nothing is possible. So emptiness means empty of independent existence, which means there is a dependent existence. Because of this dependent existence, the cause is the fruit is dependent on the cause. So we can change the cause. We can change the factor. We can change the environment. Right? And even when we use the word impermanent doesn't have a negative connotation. Impermanence simply means the possibility to change. That means changing for the good also. The possibility to change for the good also. Okay. Okay.
Thank you so much, Geshe-la.
Mhm.
I think no yellow hand anymore.
Okay.
Geshe-la gave us a lot of food for thought again.
Mhm.
Thank you so much, Geshe-la.
Thank you.
Pamela, are you happy to share the dedication prayers? May the precious Supreme Bodhicitta, not yet born, arise. May that arisen not decline, but increase more and more. In a land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All-powerful Chenrezig Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Geshe-la.
You.
Have a lovely Sunday evening.
Thank you. See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow, Geshe-la. Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a lovely Sunday evening, afternoon. Maybe it's just morning. There's a few people here from America, so you have the whole day. Enjoy and see you all tomorrow again. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.